In part 1 and 2 we learned all about the different frame sizes, camera angles and shot types. Today we'll be taking a look at how industry professionals apply some of the things we learned and more, so you can apply it to your work as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. So this is a scene from Better Call Saul, Season 5, Episode 5. Now I will not be going through all the aspects of visual storytelling in this scene, like lighting, set design, etc. Since we are only focusing on visuals, there will also be no original sound in the scene. Also, if you haven't watched Better Call Saul Season 5 Episode 5 yet and plan to do so, don't watch this scene, there will be spoilers. So the scene starts with a close-up of Mike's hand, followed by a medium/medium close-up shot, which is also a low angle. Then we cut to another medium shot, which is also a low angle. Now normally, to be able to cut from one medium to another medium of the same character, you have to reposition the camera enough to give a different perspective. In this example it works because we first see Mike from the front, from the outside of the house, and then cut to a profile shot of him on the inside of the house. The change in lighting and angle is enough to make the cut invisible. Now we see a wide shot, which also acts as an establishing shot. We can see what the house looks like and where Mike is located within the house. The technique they used here to establish a scene is a very common one. You can just start the scene with a wide shot and proceed to a medium to show us what the character is doing. So we establish the location and the character in the first shot and go into more detail in the second shot. In this scene they went the other way around. First we see a close-up of a hand. We don't know where we are yet and whose hand it is, so we start to ask questions. Then the answers to those questions get slowly revealed. One way we go from wide to close. Another way we go from close to wide. Let's move on. We cut back to the shot inside the house. Then when we hear someone off-screen talking, we cut back to the shot outside of the house to see his reaction. Now the voice he hears is also outside the house, so when they cut back from the inside to the outside they bring us and Mike closer to the voice. Then we get an extreme low angle shot inside the house where the camera is looking up at Mike. We can see his reaction both in his face and also how he proceeds working with the tool. The scene ends and the second scene starts from here. Multiple scenes that are connected to one another are called a sequence. So we continue on with the second scene of the sequence. Now in this scene we start with an extreme wide shot, which is also an establishing shot. We can immediately see the location, the characters and their position in relation to each other. This is the opposite approach to the last scene. Last scene we went from close to wide, this scene we go from wide to close. Let's move on. After the extreme wide we cut to a medium close-up, then to a wide shot, which is less wide than the extreme wide we saw before. This is a master shot. It shows us all the important things in the scene and the position of the characters in relation to each other. Pay attention at how the fountain is pointing at one of the characters. This character has a connection with the fountain in the story, so it's not a coincidence that this shot is framed like this. Now he's walking away to put some distance between Mike and himself. This is no coincidence either. This is how they use blocking to communicate visually. Notice how the fountain is now pointing towards Mike. This is an indication that the story behind the fountain will make them find common ground. Pay attention to the distance between them on the screen. The distance between them, also called negative space, is extremely important in this scene. So Mike walks closer to him, making the distance smaller. We are still in the same type of shot. Then we cut to a medium close-up of Gus. Notice that this is a single. Then we get to see a similar shot of Mike. Note that this is also a single. They're both not on the same page yet, they can't agree with one another. As you can see, Mike is throwing some judgment at Gus. Then we see another single of Gus because they still haven't found common ground. Now as he says this, "I am what I am," this is something Mike can relate to. He respects him for being himself, but he doesn't like him. This is the first time we see them together in the frame again, in over the shoulder. The distance between them also got a little smaller. From now on, the conversation is also less hostile. He is not throwing accusations or judging anymore. So as he gives him a choice, he says, "We both know how this ends," which means badly. They are both not a fan of that outcome, so they are both shown in a single here. There is no common ground. Gus doesn't like that outcome and Mike doesn't like that outcome. So as Mike presents another option, we both see them together in the screen again, and as you can see, the distance between them closed significantly. Now we see a reverse over the shoulder of Mike, because he's contemplating the idea of working for Gus. Next we see an over the shoulder of Gus again, but now wider, and Mike is more prominent in the frame because he's throwing accusations and attacking Gus. So now Gus tries to find common ground again, and as you can see, he closes the distance even more. You can see in the wide shot that Gus actively tries to close the distance between them. We started here and now we're here. Now this time we see a single of Gus again. This is because Gus has a very specific personal revenge that Mike has nothing to do with. The scene ends with an over-the-shoulder medium close-up of Mike, because he indeed understands revenge, just not the same way that Gus does. And once again, let's look at the distance. We went from this to this, from having nothing in common to finally finding common ground. Let's take a look at the next scene. This one is from House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 5. Once again, if you're not up to date on this show, spoilers are incoming. Let's get to it. This scene starts with a close-up of Rhaenyra, followed by a medium close-up, which quickly turns into over the shoulder. So this is an example how blocking and camera movement can turn one shot into multiple. We start with a medium close-up, go to wide over the shoulder, to a full shot over the shoulder, and to a medium over the shoulder. Then we cut to an extreme wide shot, which is also an establishing shot and a master shot. It shows us where the characters are and where they are in relation to each other. A master shot and an establishing shot can often be combined. As the conversation starts, we cut to a medium of both characters. This is a very common thing in many scenes. We first start with a wide shot to show where we are, then cut to a medium to get to the conversation. So notice how they were looking out to the sea at first, and then a subtle turn towards each other. This is also how they use blocking to tell a story. We were seeing their faces and their reactions, now we only see half a face, so now we are looking from the sidelines. To make us more involved in the conversation again, there is only one thing to do. Exactly, cut to an over the shoulder. Now these two are lovers, you can clearly see it by how close they are to one another. The distance between them is almost non-existent. So at this point in the conversation, he is just stating things that she agrees with. So we see them both in matching over the shoulder shot. The conversation continues for a while and he basically asks her to go away with him and marry him. Now after he proposes, she thinks about it for a while and walks away and leaves him alone in the frame. Then we cut to what I like to call the Dillema shot. This is such a perfect way to show a dilemma. You can see him in the background and you can see she's with her back towards him. She's not walking away. She's just standing there thinking which way to go. You can see she has not much room in front of her. On the one side she has a wall and on the other side she has him. She's cornered between the two choices, one she wants to take and one she has to take. So once again, notice how he shifts the position towards her so we can continue the conversation. As she finally makes her decision, the camera is moving closer to her. Next shot of her is a single. This is because she's about to reject his proposal. You can see we shift to an over the shoulder when she mentions the things he just mentioned. Now we see him in a single shot because he got rejected. We see her in over the shoulder because she still wants to be with him. And we see him in a single again because he realizes they are not on the same page at all. For her, the duty is more important than love. Now she gets closer to him because she still cares and she doesn't want to lose him. As the conversation goes on, he tries to explain to her what he feels to get her to understand. When she doesn't understand, he walks away and leaves her in a single shot. Their relationship has ended. We see how she reacts to it, then we see her in a wide shot, all alone in the same spot where they just were together in. Notice how she looks small and lonely. This is because of the use of the high angle and an extreme wide shot. After that, the scene ends. We see a shot that shows us where the ship is headed and acts as a transition for the next scene. As you guys can see, every single shot in the film is there for a reason and has its own purpose. Now we only looked at framing, camera angles and some blocking. We didn't touch upon camera movement, lighting, mood or tone, but we will in the future. To anyone who wants to learn visual language, I recommend to play some of their favorite scenes without sound. Sound plays a major role in film and continuity, so it can make some of the cuts invisible. Now that is good if you want to be captivated by a movie and forget you're watching one, but it's harder to focus on the visuals. So I hope you learned something new today, and if you did, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, consider subscribing and smash that like button. Till next time.